Ancient signals in the void. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly around the Emertheory exploration fleet. Commander Vexar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon, watching the star charts with growing frustration. 3 months of deep space exploration had yielded nothing but empty systems and dead worlds. His purple, scaled hands gripped the command rail as his yellow eyes scanned the tactical display. Commander called Science Officer Kepere from her station, her voice carrying an unusual tremor of excitement. "I'm detecting something strange in the Kepler 438 system. Multiple large objects, but they're not showing up on our standard scans." Vexar's head turned sharply, his elongated skull catching the bridge's blue lighting. The Malfi Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 2,000 years, and finding anything truly unknown was rare. To find strange Officer Kier's fingers danced across her console, her 3-fingered hands moving with practiced precision. "Sir, there are at least 12 massive objects in the outer system. They appear to be artificial constructs, possibly ancient space stations or derelict vessels. But here's what's odd. They're completely dark. No power signatures, no heat emissions, nothing. Yet, they're maintaining perfect orbital positions around a dead star." The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the ship's engines. Vexar felt his pulse quicken. Ancient ruins were valuable beyond measure, often containing technology that could advance their civilization by centuries. "How massive are we talking?" "Each object is approximately 3 kilometers in length, sir. They're larger than our dreadnoughts, but designed unlike anything in our databases. The whole configuration is completely foreign." Vexar made his decision quickly. "Set course for the system. All ships maintain battle readiness. We don't know what we're walking into." The Malari fleet consisted of 5 ships, the command vessel Crimson Talon, 2 destroyers, and 2 science vessels. As they approached the mysterious objects, the crew's excitement grew. Through the viewports, they could see the ancient vessels floating in perfect formation around the dying star. "They're beautiful," whispered Kefera. "Look at those curves, that design. It's not utilitarian like ours. Someone built these with artistry in mind." The ships were indeed stunning. Their hulls were smooth and organic looking, as if grown rather than constructed. Despite their size, they seemed graceful, even elegant. Dark metal surfaces reflected the faint light of distant stars, creating an almost mystical appearance. "Begin scanning," Vexar ordered. "I want to know everything about these vessels. Age, construction materials, possible entry points. If there's anything valuable here, I want it found." As the science teams work, hours passed without significant discoveries. The ships appeared to be made of materials unknown to Mother Science. No weapons were visible. No engines could be identified. And most puzzling of all, there were no signs of decay, despite their obvious age. "Commander," Keffer called out, her voice tight with concentration. "I'm detecting something. It's faint, but there are energy patterns inside the largest vessel. Not active systems, but something like sleeping circuits." "Sleeping circuits?" Vextar moved closer to her station. "What do you mean?" "It's as if the entire ship is in some kind of standby mode. Minimal power flowing through what might be neural networks." "Sir, I think these ships might still be functional." Before Vextar could respond, every console on the bridge suddenly lit up with warnings. The tactical officer shouted in alarm. "Commander!" Energy spikes detected from all 12 vessels. "They're powering up." Through the viewport, the ancient ships began to change. Lines of soft blue light traced along their hulls, creating intricate patterns that pulsed like heartbeats. The largest vessel, which had been completely dark moments before, now glowed with an inner radiance that was both beautiful and terrifying. "All ships, defensive positions," Vexar barked. "Raise shields and prepare weapons." But even as he gave the order, he knew they were outmatched. The energy readings coming from the ancient vessels were beyond anything the Malfi had ever recorded. These weren't just ships. They were technological marvels that made their own fleet look primitive. A new voice suddenly filled the bridge, calm, measured, and speaking in perfect Malthuri, despite the impossibility of that fact. "Unknown vessels, you have entered a protected zone. State your intentions or prepared to be escorted away." Vextar's eyes widened. How are they speaking our language? Open a channel. Channel open. Sir, this is Commander Vexar of the Malthi Imperial Fleet. We are explorers, seeking knowledge and resources. We mean no harm to your vessels. There was a pause before the voice responded. Malthi Imperial Fleet. Scanning your historical records now. You are a young species, approximately 2,000 years since achieving faster-than-light travel. Your expansion patterns show typical aggressive territorial behavior. Why should we trust your stated peaceful intentions? Kefir leaned toward Vexar and whispered urgently, Sir, how are they accessing our historical records? Our databases are heavily encrypted and isolated from external networks. The voice continued as if it had heard her whisper, Your encryption is elementary. We have been monitoring galactic communications for the past 50,000 years. We know of the Mother Empire's methods of exploration, which typically end with conquered worlds and enslaved populations. Vexar felt a chill run down his spine. 50,000 years. That was before the Malari had even developed written language. Who are you? What species built these vessels? We are the remnants of humanity's deep space defensive network. Our creators departed known space long ago, leaving us to guard the outer regions and monitor younger civilizations. You may call me Prometheus. Humans. Kyr's voice was barely a whisper, but humans are legends. Ancient stories told by the oldest species. They were supposed to be mythical. Prometheus seemed to hear this as well. Mythical to you perhaps, but very real to those who remember. Your species has heard whispers of humanity, because we once guided and protected developing civilizations. We were teachers, guardians, and when necessary, defenders. The largest vessel began to move, turning with impossible grace to face the Malari fleet directly. Despite its size, it moved without any visible propulsion, defying their understanding of physics. You speak of the past, Vexar said, trying to keep his voice steady. What of the present? What do you want with us? What we have always wanted to ensure that younger species survive and grow, without making the same mistakes that nearly destroyed the galaxy before. Your empire shows concerning patterns, Commander Vexar. Rapid expansion, resource exploitation, subjugation of weaker worlds. These behaviors led to the Great Silence 50 millennia ago. The Great Silence. Kefir had never heard the term, but something about it filled her with dread. A period when most advanced civilizations in this galaxy were nearly wiped out by forces they awakened through their reckless expansion. Humanity sacrificed itself to seal away that threat, retreating to the deep void to maintain the barriers. We have been watching ever since, ensuring it never happens again. Suddenly, more ships began appearing throughout the system. Not just 12, but dozens, then hundreds, each one identical to the first group, all powering up with the same ethereal blue light. The tactical display showed energy readings that made the Malari fleet weapons look like toys. By the ancestors, whispered the tactical officer. There are over 300 vessels out there now. Where did they come from? Cloaked monitoring stations throughout this region of space, Prometheus explained. We maintain a presence wherever young species might stumble upon things they shouldn't. Your arrival here was not accidental, Commander. This system is a test. A test. Vexar's pride flared despite his fear. We are the Malfi Empire. We bow to no one. And that attitude is precisely why you're being tested. The voice remained calm, but somehow carried more weight than before. 3 other species have found this system in the past century. 2 chose wisdom and were guided away from dangerous knowledge. The 3rd chose aggression. What happened to the 3rd species? They learned that there are some lessons that can only be taught through experience. Their empire still exists, but it is much smaller now, and much wiser. On the bridge, tension filled the air like a physical presence. Every Malfi officer understood the implication. These ancient human constructs possessed the power to humble their entire civilization, and they had apparently done so before. Vexar made a decision that would change the course of Malari history. Instead of ordering an attack or attempting to flee, he chose a 3rd option. What would you have us do? An interesting response, Prometheus noted. Most military commanders choose fight or flight when faced with superior force. You chose to negotiate. Perhaps there is hope for your species after all. One of the ancient vessels began approaching the Malfuri fleet. As it drew closer, its true size became apparent. It dwarfed their largest ships, yet moved with the grace of a living creature. "We are going to show you something, Commander Vexar. Something that will help you understand why humanity withdrew from the galaxy, and why we continue to stand guard in the darkness. But first, you must understand that knowledge comes with responsibility." The approaching vessel extended what appeared to be a docking tube toward the Crimson Talon. "A representative will board your ship. She will explain things that you cannot unlearn once heard. Choose carefully whether you want this knowledge, because once you possess it, you will be bound by the same duty that has kept us vigilant for 50,000 years. Vexar looked around his bridge at his crew. Fear and curiosity weighed in their expressions. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Contact with legendary humanity and technology beyond their wildest dreams. But it came with warnings that spoke of ancient dangers and terrible responsibilities. Commander Keffer said softly, "Whatever they're guarding against, it must be worse than anything we can imagine if it caused humanity to abandon the galaxy." Vexar nodded slowly. The weight of decision pressed down on him, but his curiosity won over his caution. "We accept your offer, Prometheus. Send your representative." "Very well. Prepare to meet Captain Alina Vasquez, recently awakened from stasis. She will tell you the story of humanity's sacrifice and the choice that now faces your people." As the docking procedure began, Vexar couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would divide Mother History into before and after. Whatever they were about to learn would change everything, and there would be no going back. The ancient human fleet waited in perfect formation, their blue lights pulsing like slow heartbeats in the darkness of space. Guardians of secrets that had kept the galaxy safe for 50,000 years. Guardians of the lost worlds. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Alina Vasquez stepped aboard the Malari vessel. She was shorter than Vexar had expected, with olive skin and dark hair streaked with premature gray. Her uniform was unlike anything in their databases, form-fitting but practical, made from materials that seemed to shift and adapt to her movements. What struck him most were her eyes, ancient eyes, and a relatively young face, carrying the weight of knowledge that spanned millennia. "Commander Vexar," she said, extending her hand in what Vexar recognized as the human greeting gesture. "Thank you for accepting our invitation. I know this situation must be overwhelming for your crew." Vexar cautiously extended his own scaled hand, surprised by the firmness of her grip. "Captain Vasquez, your technology is beyond our understanding. How long have you been in stasis?" "Personally, about 12,000 years. I was awakened when your fleet triggered our monitoring systems." She looked around the bridge with professional interest. "Your ship design is efficient. Malfury engineering focuses on function over form." "I see. Very practical." Kier stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. "Captain, forgive my directness, but we were told humanity is mythical. Yet here you are speaking our language, commanding technology that makes our fleet look primitive. How is this possible?" Alina smiled, but there was sadness in it, because the myths are echoes of truth, distorted by time and retelling. "May I?" She gestured toward the main display screen. At Vexar's nod, Alina approached the console. Without touching any controls, the screen activated and began showing images, star charts, historical records, and scenes that took Vexar's breath away. 53,000 years ago, humanity achieved what we called the Great Awakening. We had spread across the galaxy, established peaceful relations with dozens of species, and created a golden age of cooperation and learning. The screen showed images of magnificent cities on hundreds of worlds, humans working alongside dozens of alien species in harmony. We were teachers and protectors, helping younger civilizations avoid the mistakes that plagued our own early development. Wars became rare. Resources were shared. Knowledge flowed freely between species. For nearly 3,000 years, the galaxy experienced unprecedented peace and prosperity. The images were beautiful beyond description, orbital cities that looked more like art than architecture. Pristine worlds where multiple species lived in harmony, technologies that seemed like magic to molar eyes. "What happened?" Vexar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Alina's expression darkened. "We found something we shouldn't have. In the deep void between galaxies, Human explorers discovered structures that predated everything we knew, ancient beyond measure, built by entities that existed before the first stars formed. We called them the architects. The screen now showed images that made Vexar scales crawl with instinctive fear. Massive geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly, twisted spires that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and worst of all, the remains of civilizations that had encountered them. The architects were not evil in any way we could understand. They were simply so far beyond our level of existence that their mere presence warped reality around them. Entire star systems would change when they passed nearby. Species would evolve or de-evolve in ours. The laws of physics would become negotiable. Kier's voice was barely a whisper. What did humanity do? We tried to communicate with them. Of course, humanity has always been curious to a fault. Our scientists and diplomats made contact, thinking we could learn from them, perhaps even cooperate. Elena's hands clenched into fists. We were children, playing with forces that could unmake galaxies. The screen showed the aftermath. Worlds twisted into impossible shapes. Species transformed beyond recognition. Entire sectors of space where normal physics no longer applied. The architects weren't trying to harm us. That's what made it so terrifying. This was their natural state of being. Simply existing near them was enough to cause chaos on a galactic scale when they began to take notice of our galaxy, to show interest in the complex civilizations we had built. She didn't need to finish. Vexar could imagine the horror of being so powerful that their curiosity alone could destroy everything they had built. Humanity made a choice. Elena continued. We could abandon the galaxy and let younger species face the architects alone. Or we could sacrifice everything to protect what we had helped create. You chose sacrifice. Vexar said it wasn't a question. We developed technology specifically designed to create barriers between dimensions, walls that would keep the architects from noticing our galaxy. But maintaining those barriers required incredible amounts of energy and constant vigilance. It couldn't be automated. It required conscious minds actively reinforcing the boundaries of reality itself. The screen now showed human fleets unlike anything they had seen before. Not the elegant vessels surrounding them now, but massive, forbidding constructs that looked more like fortresses than ships. Every human adult volunteered for the Deep Watch. We left our colonies, abandoned our cities, and took positions in the void between galaxies. There, we built the barrier fleet. Millions of vessels crewed by volunteers who knew they would never see home again. Elena's voice grew quiet. The barriers held, but at a cost. Maintaining them required us to exist partially outside normal space-time. We aged differently, thought differently. Over thousands of years, those who maintained the barriers became something that was no longer quite human. They transcended physical existence to become part of the barrier itself. And the monitoring fleets? Vexar asked. We kept some ships in normal space, hidden and waiting. Their job was to watch for signs that younger species might discover what we had found, might make the same mistakes that attracted the architect's attention. Ships like mine, crewed by humans in stasis, awakened only when needed. The implications hit Vexar like a physical blow. You've been protecting us. All this time, humanity has been standing guard while we built our empires, never knowing the danger we were being shielded from. Until now, Elena said grimly. Your empire's expansion has been faster and more aggressive than most. You're approaching regions of space where human explorers first encountered traces of the architects. If you continue on your current path, you'll find what we found. And when you do, she didn't need to finish. Vexar understood. The Mulfari Empire's curiosity and ambition would lead them to the same discovery that had forced humanity to sacrifice its entire civilization. What do you want from us? He asked. A choice. You can continue your expansion, and we'll guide you away from the dangerous regions. You'll never know what you missed, but you'll never face the temptation that destroyed our golden age. Or you can learn the truth. All of it. The knowledge we've gained, the responsibilities we've carried, the burden of protecting younger species from their own curiosity. But if you choose that path, you become part of the Deep Watch. Your civilization will join humanity in standing guard against forces that could unravel reality itself. The bridge fell silent. Vexor looked at his crew, scientists, soldiers, explorers, who had devoted their lives to expanding Malari knowledge and territory. What Elena was offering was the greatest discovery in their history, but it came with a price that would fundamentally change their entire civilization. How many species have made this choice? Kefir asked. 7. Over the past 50,000 years, each one brought unique perspectives and abilities to the Watch. The ethereal collective contributed their mastery of energy manipulation. The hive minds of Sector 7 provided distributed consciousness techniques. The Silicon Lords gave us computational power beyond organic imagination. And those who chose ignorance live peaceful, normal lives, building their civilizations under our protection. There's no shame in that choice. We've guided hundreds of species away from dangerous knowledge, and they flourished. Vexar closed his eyes, feeling the weight of decision pressing down on him. As a military commander, he was used to making choices that affected lives, but this decision would affect the entire future of his species. If we join you, he said slowly, what happens to the Mother Empire? It changes. Your people will still explore, still build, still grow, but they'll do so with the knowledge that they're part of something larger. Guardians of galactic peace, protectors of younger species, keepers of barriers that hold back chaos itself. Through the viewport, Vexar could see the human fleet waiting in perfect formation. Hundreds of ships, each one crewed by beings who had given up everything to protect civilizations they would never meet. There's something else, Elena said quietly. Our sensors have detected movement in the deep void. The barriers are weakening after 50,000 years of constant maintenance. We may not have much time before the architects notice our galaxy again. We need help, Commander. Humanity alone may not be enough to maintain the Watch much longer. That decided it for Vexar. The image of his people living safely while others sacrificed everything to protect them was unbearable. We choose knowledge, he said firmly. We choose responsibility. Elena smiled, and this time there was no sadness in it. Welcome to the Deep Watch, Commander. Your real exploration is just beginning. As if in response to his words, every ship in the human fleet pulsed with brighter light. New vessels began decloaking throughout the system. Not human ships, but vessels from other species who had made the same choice. The Malfury fleet was no longer alone in the darkness. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders beyond imagination, Elena said. But the greatest wonder is the courage of species willing to sacrifice their own ambitions to protect others. Today, the Malfi joined that fellowship, looking out at the combined fleets, human, alien, and now Malfairy vessels, united in purpose. Vexar felt something he had never experienced before. Not conquest or dominion, but belonging to something greater than any empire. The stars watched silently as the newest guardians took their place among the watchers in the void, ready to stand against the darkness for however long it took to keep the galaxy safe.